there is no limit. There's no limit in terms of the areas of cooperation that we're looking at, that the Russian government was looking at and that we're looking at from the African continent. The matter that you raised of transport corridors would be part of that. There wouldn't be any problem looking at that. We're saying, for instance, in the presentation that the African continent, as the Russian Federation knows this, is very interested in its integration. This technological development is going to impact on all aspects of human activity. Artificial intelligence, robotics, and so on. That, as you know, in terms of the first, second, and third industrial revolutions, the Africans were kind of beneficiaries, if at all, of all of this. That in this instance, we need also to be intervening in the development of this technology and better grasp, better capacity to ensure that it impacts positively on the development of the continent. But you need to capacitate the Africans to be able to intervene in this area of the fourth industrial revolution. So we make a suggestion that in terms of the human resource development, education, and all of that, the Russian Federation could take on this particular issue to say we're going to assist the African continent to develop the human resources to be able to intervene in this matter of the fourth industrial revolution. It's true that there are no sanctions against fertilizers, for instance, here in Europe, from the EU. But in reality, individual member states of the EU impose their own sanctions, as a result of which there's been I don't know what kind of shortfall in the terms of the import of fertilizer into the African continent, which means reduced volumes of production of food. It really creates a problem. So the matter of food security becomes important. How is this matter going to be addressed? Including, take the fertilizer thing, including, sure, we will continue to importing fertilizer from Russia, but why can't Russia help us to produce fertilizer on the continent? So that also we generate more of the fertilizer that the continent needs. The fighting should stop. And we could need to get back to the negotiations about the future. Everybody, starting with the Palestinians, everybody agreed we need a two-state solution. Now there's only one state. The other one doesn't exist. And indeed, the one state that exists has been doing many things to make it impossible for the emergence of the second state. It's a prescription for conflict. Inevitably, there'd always be conflict in a situation like that. With regard to the nuclear energy side, the position that the South African government has taken is it is part of the elements within your within your energy package, the matter of the supply generation of nuclear energy. And the only consideration with regard to that is affordability, to have the money to commission a power station and so on. That is entirely a matter of the capacity to be able to finance whatever size project, nuclear generation. So there would be an expectation if the South African government said tomorrow, yes, we can. One of the expectations would be that Rosatom would be one of the companies that would bid for that. The coal-fired power stations, which supply 95% of South African electricity, the coal-fired power stations today, many of which are old, and therefore we are having the electricity crisis in South Africa now is as a result of just the aging. So the power stations are not producing as much electricity as they used to. So we need to do something, essentially to renovate those stations. Now, as you know, Russia produces, certainly in Siberia, a lot of its electricity from coal-fired power stations. Mm-hmm. So we're very interested in that because, as we understand it, those coal-fired power stations in Siberia are operating, there's no problem, there's no crisis. So we've been looking at that question as to what we can do to access the experience of the coal-fired power stations in Russia in order to impact on the coal-fired power stations in South Africa. It must be in connection with punishing the Russian Federation for what's happening in Ukraine. It must be. It may not be that they are saying starve the Africans, but they would definitely be saying punish the Russians. So that would be any blockage, I would imagine, of ships, Russian ships, from moving would be for that purpose, as part of the sanctions. Not that the starting point would not be starve the Africans. Therefore, don't allow the ship to move. The starving of the Africans becomes a consequence rather than an objective, an aim. But the aim is like the fertilizer thing. There was no decision to say stop the fertilizing from the Americans, from the EU, from everybody. Stop the fertilizer going to Russia. Stop the fertilizer getting to Africa. There isn't any such decision from those bodies. But the practical reality is that there are countries in Europe which are blocking the movement of those fertilizers as their own contribution to the sanctions regime against Russia.